and she is the one who steps in between and stops it from happening, because you weren't here probably, but in the aftermath of 9/11.
Quisiera comenzar hablando sobre, yo sé que el primer congresista de color, Joseph Rainey, fue el primero de los Estados Unidos en poder visibilizar los derechos, sí, de las personas. Y quisiera preguntarte sobre cuál es el impacto que ha tenido todo este tiempo para llegar a notar su trabajo. Y claro, menciona todo el trabajo que él ha hecho. Es un gusto.
Okay, it's a very wide question, so feel free. Don't worry, that I will translate later. So feel free to talk about the impact of the legacy of Mrs. Rainey from since his election and all these years, the impact on the culture. Feel free to talk. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So this is a little bit different than what I had expected, but it's fine. I can do whatever you like. It's wonderful. I'm just pleased to be here. Thank you so much for having me here this evening or this afternoon, whatever time frame you're in. My name is Lorna Rainey. I am the great-granddaughter of the very first Black congressman. He was seated in Congress on December 12th, 1870, and that is only 38 years after he was born. So it's a huge accomplishment because he was born a slave. As far as your question, what is his impact? His impact was so extreme, and he was so outspoken that he had a lot of death threats against him. He finally had to take his family and move from his home state of South Carolina and move the family up to Windsor, Connecticut in order to protect them. But he wasn't going to allow that to stop him from doing what he wanted to do and say what he wanted to say. He was an outspoken advocate for the Black freedmen who were former slaves. He was also an outspoken advocate for the indigenous people, the Native Americans here in the States, as well as the Chinese and any poor and downtrodden people. His legacy endures today because, as you all know, as the whole world knows, there was a historically horrible insurrection on January 6th a couple of years ago. And the law that my great-grandfather actually proposed and co-sponsored and co-wrote in 1871, only 4 months after he got into Congress, is the very law that they are using now to prosecute the insurrectionists. So that is one way that his legacy endures.
Slave in the House, que es el documental que habla sobre la hazaña de los 38 años de la edad que pudo Joseph Rainey poder vencer la esclavitud en ciertas partes de los Estados Unidos. Lo más importante que yo quiero saber es cómo esta historia ha podido hacer la diferencia para que muchas personas ya puedan eliminar ese contexto de su vida referente a la esclavitud, de pronto las malas palabras, los malos gestos, referente a una persona que todos tienen el mismo derecho, todos tienen el mismo concepto de que cualquier persona que lucha por la libertad merece cosas buenas. ¿Qué opinas sobre el poder tocar masas y poder llegar a poder poco a poco vencer la esclavitud?
As you know, this is a movie. This is a channel about movies, and there is a documentary called "Slave in the House." We know that for the power of the arts, of course, the cinema, and well-telling stories. So, how this documentary that, of course, we know that talks about the subjects that you were talking about, he going in a very, very young age, be part of the congressman and held to all the fight for the rights for their community. So yes, how do you think that this documentary will help? Because I will add something. Jhon is right. We live in different times, but sometimes movie studios keep having mistakes. You know, the famous case back in the 40s, 50s with Disney that made that movie called Son of the South, still doing wrong imagery and grown thoughts, and you know that some media had evolved, but we still seen terrible movies like Loquicha, you know, that those racist slurs and subjects. So how do you think that this documentary can help to change the mind, and of course know more about Mr. Rainey?
That's an excellent question. And maybe we should go to the beginning and tell you a little bit more about him. And then I can actually play for you the trailer for the film. How would that be? Okay. All right. So let's begin this way. Joseph was born in June of 1832 into slavery on a rice plantation in South Carolina. His father, Edward, was determined that his child would not grow up under those circumstances. So he endeavored to find a way where he could get freedom for the family. These are the slave quarters that were on the rice plantations in Georgetown, South Carolina. I actually went there because I wanted to understand and I wanted to see how the slaves actually lived. So obviously, I saw this, and when I was in there, I couldn't stay in there for more than a few minutes because it was just, it just ripped my heart out that at the end of a long day of hard work, hard labor in the master's beautiful house, this is what they came home to. And they were happy to come home to it. And if you can see over here, you see the the chipped cups and everything, and they were happy to have that. It was all they had. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm so there's still my thing disappeared over here, but we can go back to this over here. And this is another thing that he wanted to save them from on the plantation. This is an old man threshing rice. And if you can see at the bottom down here, it says slave duties. This was one of the things that they did on the plantation, was that they would collect all the rice in the fields, then they would bring it all together, and then they would have to toss it in these baskets to separate the outer husk of the rice from the actual grain so it could be eaten. Go back to this. Okay, so there were a few trades which the masters allowed the slaves to partake in or to pursue. One of those was barbering, and that was the one that my great grandfather Edward chose because, according to the laws of South Carolina, they were able to keep a small portion of whatever they earned at the trade that they were allowed to pursue. So by the time Joseph was 10 years old, his dad had saved enough money barbering that he was able to free or buy freedom for the whole family. Himself, his wife Gracia, his son Edward Jr., and Joseph. So at that time, they left the plantation and they went to live in Charleston. Edward found a job as a barber at a prestigious hotel in Charleston, and the family lived relatively well. They were fairly comfortable for freed Black slaves. He had his two sons tutored in private, and he taught Joseph the barbering trade. So when Joseph was old enough, he also worked at the same hotel until the father and son actually opened up a little barber shop called Rainey's Haircutting Emporium. And then the Civil War broke out. Everything was destroyed at that point. So I'm going to see if I can go to my, maybe I can go to my desktop and find Slave in the House and actually show you the trailer. Okay?
That was harsh, by the way. But it's great to know that for the sake of history and knowing, because I understand you. You know that Colombia wasn't afar from the subject of slavery, but Cartagena, all these cities from the coast suffered. But when I visit, I I visit one day one of the places where they torture the prisoners from
Wow.
war, but I had never watched the the conditions in which the slaves lived. I think I saw it in the Castle of San Felipe in Cartagena, that you know that it's a city built by
By
slaves.
slaves.
And there is a lot in the book. Yes, because Blas de Leso came and he was a tyrant, a tyrant. And even in the culture, I don't know if you know Joe Arroyo, he's a singer from Colombia. His son, he's dead, but he sang a song called The Rebellion, La Rebelión, and it's about slavery. But I had never saw that, so for me it's hard. And I was telling Jhon, and Jhon said that was hard. But thank you for letting us
Yeah.
know, because we need to know that.
And that's exactly the thing, that you don't feel it in your heart until you actually go there. On a related topic, I think I went to Germany and I went to Dachau, which was one of the concentration camps. And that also was like a knife in my heart, just to be there and know that there was that much suffering and death and misery. It was really, it left an impression on me that I've never forgotten all these years later. I'm gonna switch my thumbnail drive because I think the trailer is on this one.
Okay.
We went out to Washington Square Park in New York City to ask people some history questions. It seems everyone knows who the first black president of the United States was.
Barack Obama.
Barack Obama.
Obama.
But when we asked who the first black congressman of the United States was,
I don't know that answer.
Now that I do not know.
No idea.
That's a good question.
Couldn't tell you that.
I would like to know.
and then we asked them to guess what year he was elected.
1950s?
Late 1960s, 1970, early 70s.
Somewhere in the 1940s, maybe?
70s?
Although many thought they should know the answer, no one did. Slave in the House is a new documentary film by Emmy Award-winning filmmaker Dean Love that tells the story of a courageous man who went from being a slave to being a United States congressman in the 1870s. Joseph Hayne Rainey was born a slave in South Carolina. Joseph's father was a slave and a barber. According to the law, he had to be given a small percentage of his earnings because he worked off of his owner's property. When Joseph was only 10 years old, his father had saved enough money to buy the family's freedom. Joseph learned his father's trade and became a working barber and freedman living in the South. When the Civil War broke out, Joseph was conscripted into the Confederate Army fighting to preserve slavery. Joseph enlisted the help of the abolitionists, and he and his wife made a daring escape to Bermuda. Bermuda had eliminated slavery 30 years earlier. He opened a barber shop, and his wife opened a hat and dress shop. Joseph taught himself to read and write using U.S. newspapers, and he followed the Civil War. When the war ended, he returned to South Carolina and became involved in politics. As part of the reparations, former slaves were allowed to vote, and in 1870, Rainey was elected as the first black congressman. He served 4 terms and one day sat in as Speaker of the House, making him the first black man to do so. He was under constant death threats from the KKK and the Red Shirts, but he fought tirelessly for equal rights for African Americans as well as the Chinese immigrants and the Native Americans. He pushed the boundaries, demanding equal treatment. After buying a first-class ticket, he was thrown from a train for refusing to move to the colored car. He was Rosa Parks 100 years earlier. This is truly an amazing story of a black man daring to live the American dream in the late 1800s. After 4 terms as congressman, through the use of Jim Crow laws and voter intimidation, America took a big step backwards. All the black congressmen and senators were voted out of office, and it would be 3 generations before another black person was elected to either house. But why don't we know this story? Why isn't it taught to children in history classes? Joseph's great-granddaughter, Lorna Rainey, who is a writer and a talent manager, and producer, director, and writer Dean Love, have teamed up to tell this epic story. Lorna and her cousin Robin have Joseph's personal handwritten journal, which has been passed down through the generations. Through cinematically created period reenactments and interviews with historians, we will tell the story of the true beginnings of the equal rights movement. We will travel to Bermuda to see where he lived and worked when he escaped from the Civil War. We will speak with modern-day congressmen and celebrities of color, and we will reach out to President Obama to discuss the impact of this great man's life on modern day. It's a story of America's past that is still relevant in today's headlines. This is Roots meets 12 Years a Slave equals President Obama. This is the legacy of the Honorable Joseph Hayne Rainey.
This film is going to touch on a lot of very, very important aspects of his life. And since 2005, now mind you, all that time that he served, and he was out of office in 1879, he stayed in 9 years. All that time, they never did an official portrait of him. Everyone else, not him. So finally, in 2005, they finally commissioned an official portrait of him, which now hangs in the Rayburn building in Washington, D.C. And he has now a whole tribute in the hallway of the Capitol. And when the Capitol was overrun with the insurrectionists, that was the first question I asked is, did they destroy his tribute? And they said, no, it wasn't touched. However, there was a big portrait of him in one of the congressperson's offices that did get trashed. They took it out of the office and smashed it. They threw it in a big pile. But that's another story. That was okay. And now, as you know, they named a room in the Capitol after him. It's called the Joseph Hayne Rainey Room. It's beautiful. I was there for that, which is so nice. And, now there's a lot of things. The Smithsonian Magazine, they did a whole article about him. It was a 10-page article. So, good things have been happening. Let's put it that way, finally. So I think it's our time. Strangely enough, some people have said that, sorry about that. Could you see that on the screen? Did that pop up for you?
No.
Okay, good. All right,
No.
back to what I was saying. No.
No.
So some people have said that it's not a good idea to name a slave in the house because some people, have a problem with that. But my response to that is nobody says that about Jewish people when they say the Holocaust over and over and over and never forget over and over and over. It makes us remember that something terrible happened to them. We don't resent them for it. It's a good thing to know your history and to not want it to be repeated. So we're going to see if it stays as Slave in the House or if we change the title. But I want to thank you for, allowing me to talk about Congressman Rainey, my great-grandfather. And if it's time, we can now talk about the company if you want to do that. But that's your choice.
Of course, and no, we are the ones that we had to thank you. I was telling Jhon that this is an opportunity of a lifetime, and of course, not only that the people from the States know it. With this interview, we want that people from Latin America and Spain, Europe know it.
Yeah, I just want to thank you so much for letting me come on and talk about the congressman and his achievements, and not to forget that there's so much about him that we haven't been able to tell the people. There's so many things that people thought that are not true, and we want to be able to set the record straight on that. So this is an opportunity. You had asked me before, why we would want to do a film about him. It's because everyone is tuned into media. Everyone watches film. Everyone watches TV. Not as many people read the newspapers anymore or read magazines anymore. Everybody is tuned into film. So we feel that's the best way to reach the most people and get the most people to know about him and his achievements and what he went through and what he was able to accomplish during his lifetime.
Before I let my friend Jhon talk, I'm so happy that you mentioned the cinema as a media, because one of the interviews that got us more proud in the past from Jhon and myself is the amazing filmmaker, Afro-American filmmaker, Bill Dude, and he tells us the importance of, wow, can you imagine the face for us? And that amazing man tell us about the importance from cinema, from media, to tell about the history, your history. And it's great because I had seen, and I'm happy when the movies do it, the people, because you know that sometimes when it's made by, I don't want to talk about races, but when it's made by the whites, they try to whitewash the history. But I saw movies like, of course, 12 Years of Slavery. We got one of the actors it. I saw
Right.
Harriet. So when we will see Rainy, not because I had a question before I tell you. Is there that I don't know what his last name is common because is he related to the mother of blues, Ma Rainey, or the has
No.
anything? No, but I saw that movie. It was a very beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Now I will let I just want to tell you that about Bill Dude and the importance
Oh,
of.
that's really big though. Yeah, Bill Duke he's very well known, very
I will,
outspoken, very strong. Yeah.
I will tell my friend John that he shared you that interview, and I
Okay.
will let my friend John do the question. John, comparte la entrevista de Bill Dude y haz la pregunta a mí.
Bueno, sobre la agencia y todo, a mí me gustaría preguntarle algo sobre Talent Express.
Mhm.
Es sobre cómo usted ha visto el poder visibilizar el talento afrodescendiente, el referente de los afroamericanos en el cine, en las series de televisión, porque hay un portafolio interesante respecto a ello. Y también es de felicitar porque has visibilizado los actores ya que poco a poco son ya longevos. ¿Cómo usted ha visto el poder darle la oportunidad en la agencia?
Yes, the question is how the agency can allow us to showcase talent, new talent, and also old talent. But that question got also not a twist but a plus. We are happy because this guy right here, John, and myself, we had showcased not only the talent for old timers like this dude, but we got Jim Freeman, Shaquita Smith, Kwashindi Henry. In fact, we got the whole cast for a movie, no, three movies directed by Afro-American. So how can, if we do it, how can talent do that? Showcase the talent from the Afro-American community, and of course the Afro-Colombian community we had shown here too. So that made us more proud because yes, as you say, black is beautiful, and that beauty is also. And in fact, I know you know. Finally, in our country, we got a Afro-Colombian vice president. Finally, after years of struggle. Go ahead, tell us about the agency.
My company was started a long time ago in 1991. And, along the way, we have been able to do a lot of good things for a lot of people. And I think that is my mission in life is how can I help as many people achieve their dream as possible? As far as talent goes, um, they mainly find us. We don't reach out for them anymore because our company it has thankfully a very good and strong reputation. So now the talent are reaching out to us, and it's more of a kind of a how do we find the best talent? How do we find the best way to find out what their skills are in a short period of time? And I think that's one of the most challenging things because when you represent talent and you make a commitment to them, sometimes they do very well right away. Sometimes they don't do well for a long time. And you have to understand, and they have to understand too. Sometimes it doesn't happen overnight. It takes very hard work. They have to have their materials together. They have to have their pictures. They have to take classes. Um, they have to always be ready to go when there's an audition. It's a real commitment, and you have to have a passion for the industry. You have to have a love for it, and you have to be dedicated and determined to make it because along the way, there are going to be so many no's, and you're going to wonder if you ever get that yes. And That's one of the things that I do and that the team does here at TTE is we always encourage the talent that don't worry if it doesn't happen tomorrow. Maybe it's next week, maybe it's next month. Don't look at what the other actors are accomplishing because they're not you. You don't have their skill set. You don't look like them. They don't have your skill set. So just focus on being the absolute best you that you can be because you already have management that believes in you. So at that point now, it's just up to us as a team to bring it all together and get the casting directors to understand where you are in the process and that you'd be a good person to call in for an audition. Once you're called in for an audition, it's up to you. It's not up to anybody else now. It's really for you to show them that you're exactly what they're looking for.
También es importante reconocer que, bueno, lo que yo he visto en TIT es sobre que hay 3 mujeres liderando esta gran empresa y quisiera preguntarle, ¿qué es lo que destacas en la esencia de ustedes como mujeres en poder tener el impacto que se ha tenido? Por ejemplo, Anastasia, Evelyn, a ti, Lorna. ¿Cómo es conformar eso y poder llegar a más gente? Por ejemplo, acá en Latinoamérica, pudieron lograrlo. ¿Cómo es entrar al mercado latino referente a conocer la agencia? ¿Y cómo hace la gente que de pronto tiene talento de experimentar, cumplir sus expectativas en cine, llegar a TIT?
Okay, as we were talking about amazing women, they're not, and we know there's people like Tonya Perkins. She did her movie, her book, but also your agency is a powerhouse from women, not only you.
Good. Yes.
So tell us how is this amazing showcase of female empowerment, but also how do you manage to get to our market? Because we know that you also managed to get to Latin America. You know that the Latino audience on size is hard, is very different, and you manage it. So tell us more.
Well, let's see. As far as the powerhouse women, I have found so many people that we've interviewed that want to be with us because we are 3 women for whatever reason. They just feel that, we're going to be serious, we're dedicated, we are always pushing the envelope, and you might get an email from us at 2:30 in the morning because we hardly ever sleep, honestly. We're up all the time trying to make sure that our talent get the absolute best opportunities. Evelyn was a friend of mine, and she had just been let go after doing, I think it was 19 years in public relations. Her company had let her go, and she was looking for an opportunity. And I thought to myself, public relations, very close to what we do. Because what do? We deal with people. What does a public relations person do? They find opportunities for people. Boom! Nice connection right there. And she and I started talking. She's wonderful, very detail-oriented. She drives me crazy with her spreadsheets. We have a good laugh about that all the time. But she is a great worker and she has a good eye for talent. Our other associate manager, Anastasia, same thing, workaholic. She has some different skill sets. Her skill sets are, she's very technical. She's like you. She could be running this session for me seamlessly and everything would be fine. She edits tapes for us. And she also has a good eye. But what the 3 of us have, I think, is an empathy, a passion for each person that we bring on. They tell us things that they don't tell their best friends. And that's fine because they understand that number 1 is going to stay right there. And number 2, we need to know as much about their personalities as we can in order that when we submit them for a role, we already know that they can handle that role because we know their character. So I hope that answers your question.
También es importante reconocer el tema de ese impacto que ha tenido no solo en el cine, también en el tema campo, pues político, pero no vamos a tocar el tema, sino cómo es llegar a distintas ramas, la agencia de TAT y qué otras ramas llegarían a poder influenciar. Por ejemplo, hay distintos, doctrinas y todo, actores que pueden tener varios puntos de vista. ¿Cómo es representar de pronto distintos pensamientos y que la agencia pueda conocerse como algo libre, algo que es importante?
We know that working with people is working with many points of view. You know that we know that everybody got his point of view in a lot of subjects, politics, arts, religion. So yeah, how the agency works for respect that, knowing that there is freedom of speech. We know that this is in the Constitution of the states. So yeah, how do you manage to do that? Because you know a lot of people, a lot of thoughts, a lot of point of view. How do you do it?
I think you're going to get me into trouble right now. But that's okay. Like my great grandfather, I don't shy away from any trouble. So here's the thing. I am obviously a woman of color. I'm triracial. I'm Black, white, Native American. So I feel my finger on the pulse of what a lot of different people may be thinking. But in the final analysis, I am the head of the company. I make certain decisions and I stand by those decisions. If I find someone who is racist, I drop them. If I find someone who has crazy conspiracy theories and is out throughout the neighborhood talking and blowing off their lips about it, I drop them. And I don't do it for only one reason, because I don't agree with them, of course. But secondarily, I am here to protect the reputation of a company that I have built for 32 years. I can't have people out there talking crazy, doing crazy stuff, and then people find out that I represent them and it comes back to me. I had that happen not too long ago. There was a woman who was talking uh, crazy talk, and she did not like the COVID vaccine. And okay, none of us like to take it, but in the industry, in order to keep the industry going, that's the rule. If you want to be in any union productions, you have to have the vaccine. If you don't want to do it, that's fine. That's your career. Don't do it. So she decided that she would tell a casting director all about her own theories and that she wasn't going to do it. She didn't understand why she had to do it. And she was going to report them because because she was booked on the job. That's the problem. She was booked on the job and she had not told the truth about the vaccine. She didn't have the shot. So now all of a sudden she's angry because they're going to take away her job. But at the same time, you didn't tell the truth. You knew that was the requirement. And if you don't want to do that, you don't have to, but you also can't avail yourself of this that other people have done. Other people have abided by the rules. Why not you? So, again, my thinking about any of that is that I weigh it carefully. And if somebody can keep it to themselves, I might be all right. But on the other hand, it depends. If I find out something that's egregious, and if somebody's anti-Semitic, somebody's homophobic, somebody's racist, somebody is, like I said, too Trumpish, I can't. And let the chips land where they may. I'm okay with it.
I think John got a really great question about your book, so I will let him do it. John,
Yo tengo dos preguntas en una, pero voy por partes. Es sobre la nativa inteligencia. Es sobre el tema del amor patriótico. Está bien. Conocemos un poco que Estados Unidos es un país que ama mucho todo lo que son el sueño, el tema de poder vivir bien, pero ¿cómo usted ha visto su pensamiento referente a cómo han cambiado los derechos o de pronto el raciocinio de las personas luego de de acontecer lo del 11 de septiembre? ¿Por qué tiene ese, discúlpame esta pregunta, pero cómo ustedes pueden lograr tener ese sexto sentido para poder decir algo malo va a pasar y necesito prepararme? Esa preparación de la nativa inteligencia. Entonces, eso quiero saber.
Okay, a third question, but I will do it. But before, I'm happy that you talked about that you're racial, that you got Native American, because one of the latest interviews that we made with the amazing Cara Jane Myers, she's a Native American that managed to, in fact, she was casted by Scorsese, and she was telling us that she was casting in his new movie. It's a very, very beautiful and bright Native American woman. And yes, we are going to talk about native intelligence. The question is harsh, but I think we need to do it because we know that the history of the United States was built in the yes in like in a basis of freedom, in a basis of good life. But we know that your country has passed with for a lot of success, or let's say of facts in history that had yes put you in struggle, like September 11, like all the racial fought, like we know that the things. In fact, all the things that happens with the Black Lives Matter even happened here in Colombia at the same time that was to all those killings in Cali. Cali, that is a city in the Pacific.
Okay.
They when the riots started before this new president Petro, no before when Duque was on the power, the police was being violent with all the people, but mostly with the Afro-Colombian. So yeah, how the native intelligence has can be used. I don't know if the question is that native intelligence is like the sixth sense, like this will help us to understand that there are things that they're not right, so we need to fix it.
Okay, well, Native Intelligence is a novel. It doesn't have anything to do with real life. The only thing that it is it was based upon, I could actually tell you how it came to be because it's the strangest thing. I was riding along in a car one day, it was a rental car, and turned on the air conditioner and got this really sick feeling all of a sudden. So I stopped the car, I got out, took some deep breaths, felt better, got in. Same thing happened. It happened 3 times. And I said, Great Spirit, what is it that you're trying to tell me? Do you have a message for me here? And it was the gift of that book, which I wrote after that experience. And if you read the book, which you don't have to, but it's about that sort of thing. It's about people doing crazy things to poison other people and make them ill. So that's what Native intelligence is about. It's about a Native woman who has this feeling, this perception that something bad is going to happen. And she is the one who steps in between and stops it from happening. Because you weren't here probably, but in the aftermath of 9/11, the authorities were asking every person to be vigilant, to look out for anything that looks suspicious, because we obviously didn't want another 9/11 to happen. So that's where this whole thing came from. It's like she was being vigilant. She saw that there was something that was going on that was not right. And so she stepped in between and she stopped the whole terrorist plot. So that's what Native intelligence is about. But you're right. You never have to apologize for telling the truth about my country. I love it, love it, love it. But it's not perfect. The things that are written in our Constitution, the things that are written in our Bill of Rights, um, the things that are written in many of our bills are not followed. And most of the time, them not following it falls on the heads of people of color, whether they be black, brown, red, or yellow. it falls on their heads most of the time. But the one thing that I do love about my country, getting a little scared these days, but is that we have the ability to change that. We have the ability through our voting and the things that we do to make it better. And that's the thing that sometimes can set America apart from other countries. We don't have to leave our country. We stay and we try to make it better. So like I said, but I'm patriotic, yes, very much so, because my blood is in this soil, the blood of all my ancestors. On my native side, Black people built the Capitol, Black people built the White House. The slaves in the South made the Carolinas especially rich with their rice, and secondarily their cotton, and then thirdly just with their labor and their bodies. So there's no way that I cannot be patriotic. I have to love the country because there's too much invested in it.
I just wish that that novel get like a movie version, and I hope
I wrote
Cara.
I wrote it. I did write the screenplay for the movie. But you
Yes.
know, but you know what? It was the strangest thing. People said that again, they didn't want to be reminded about 9/11. They felt that so many people had died needlessly and innocently that even though it was a great script and it was a great movie idea and a great novel, they didn't want to be reminded. So I couldn't really get anybody behind it. But I do have a short film that three of us did about the unscripted reactions that people had to the murder of George Floyd, and also the missing and murdered indigenous women across Indian country that nobody is talking about. These women are being disappeared. Where are they going? No one finds them and no one looks for them. So my short film is about that. I can send you that link too, because we're going to be pushing that. And that one's called Silent Tribute. And it's about, like I said, there's no words spoken at all. It's all facial reactions and body movements.
Thank you. And I hope an amazing actress like the one that I mentioned, Cara J. Mayer, be like the protagonist or something. I don't know, because when she told us with the same passion about being an Latin American, and of course, never hide the ugly stuff, but also showcase the beautiful stuff. Like finally, movies are calling it for roles that are not racist.
Right.
Like so, no. When that interview gets uploaded, I want that Jhon share you. And thank you for sharing us that short film.
Oh,
Jhon nos va a compartir el corto. Un corto
absolutely.
Excelente.
que hizo.
No, yo
Jhoncito, lo que
quisiera despedirme, como siempre le decimos a las personas, que ellas se definan una palabra. Y terminamos.
as a bye-bye, define yourself in one word. Or the agency.
Oh,
Or the legacy of your family. Wherever define it in one word.
I guess I would say driven. I am driven to succeed. I never give up. My motto is never give up, never surrender. So I'm a driven person. I started this in 1991. I was pretty much the only woman of color who had any sort of agency going at the time. And I've been able to break so many doors for so many people of color. And that's what I'm happiest about. Is that you see all that diversity on the screen? I help to make that happen just by continuing to push for our people to be included so the stories could be told truthfully. And now they are.
It's crazy because driven doesn't get like a proper translation in Spanish, but it will be like mediadora or yes, being somebody that no mediadora, driven,
Not that.
like no, like I know I will use it a word that I don't like the meaning, but I love when you can change it. In Colombia, we say patrona, la matrona, but la matrona is the woman that leads, the leader, the big leader. So matrona.
That's
Colombia.
kind of what my people call me. They say I'm like a mother hen, that I'm always like, come little chickies, come, 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 come. So that sort of thing.
La,
So it's a
la
little
matrona.
bit.
La
Okay, la
matrona.
matrona. Okay, good.
Jhon,
Bien.
Démosle un fuerte aplauso.
no,
Bravo,
bravo.
bravo. Lorna, Lorna,
Ah.
Lorna. Lorna, la verdad es un honor poder tener esta oportunidad contigo.
Increíble.
Un saludo para Colombia, Latinoamérica, sus redes sociales, para que quieran su libro, para que estén pendientes del trabajo de su bisabuelo y también que sigan la agencia.
The camera is yours. Tell your social media so people can follow you, invite people to buy your book, to know more about the agency, the history, and send a big hi to Colombia. Do whatever you want. The camera is yours.
You know, I would love it if your viewers, I'm sure there are thousands and thousands and thousands of them throughout Latin America and probably the Caribbean and all over the world. You can follow us on Facebook. We're at The Talent Express. Our website is www.thetalentexpress.com. We're also on Twitter. I have a personal page on Facebook under my name, LORNA Rainey. I also have a personal Twitter account. I don't know if I'm using it at all, but it's there at Lorna Rainey also. So, um, I want to thank everyone for watching, and you know, again, we all need to network together to help each other. My other motto is have knowledge, we'll share, because I think that there are so many people out there that want to do something, they just don't know how. And if you have the knowledge to help them, you need to share that knowledge with them so that they can also live their best life. The Great Spirit gives us a lot of different gifts, and we should share those gifts with everyone. And we should never count ourselves as better than anybody else. There's a lot of times I think, oh, why am I doing this? And then I remember I get a booking for someone, and all of a sudden it's like they glow, their whole lives just opened up ahead of them because now their dreams are coming true. And I think that's what we all want, is to make our dreams come true and to enjoy life and not have to grind it out doing something that we really hate every day. That is such a burden. Saturday night comes and you say, oh my gosh, it's Sunday, and then after that I have to go back to work. For me, Saturday night comes, Sunday night comes, and I'm like, yes, tomorrow's Monday, yay, because I love what I do. And I think that we each have to do that, no matter if you're in the industry or you're a chef or you sell real estate or you're a mom or a dad, whatever you do, you only have one life, and you need to fill that life with as many moments of joy as you can.
We were like, not ashamed, but oh no, this will be a serious interview. Don't ask for the picture, but no, it was a serious, but it was
Oh, okay.
also a very joyful interview. So that's the reason why. Jhon,
No, Lorna, la verdad siempre es un honor. Gracias por la oportunidad. Bienvenida siempre al canal. Y
Gracias,
no, muy agradecido.
muchas gracias. Muchas gracias.
muchas gracias. De nada, muchas gracias.
Good weekend. God bless you.
Oh, you too. You too. Have a wonderful weekend, and thank you for what you're doing. Not just for me, but for everyone. Thank you. Continue to share.
You're welcome.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Okay.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao,
Ciao,
ciao.
ciao, ciao.